Yes, guys, what's going on? This is Specimen. Today, Madoc in Scoia'tael. Why Scoia'tael? Well, of course, we've got the Making a Bomb card, which is the only bomb in the game that's not a neutral, and it is the best bomb as well, because for 4 provisions, it can deal 4 damage as well as a little bit of movement. Movement can actually be surprisingly useful against cards like Keltalis, etc. as well. And also, the movement does synergize with Madoc. Madoc's going to spawn in a random row, and we might use a Making a Bomb to move something into his row as well. Just worth considering. When I build a deck, I often just like to start with a clean slate and put in the most important cards. And in any Precision Strike control deck, it's going to be Sentinels, it's going to be Volunteers, and it's going to be Justice as well. Now, when I use Justice, I really like to use a Neuromancy, especially in a deck like this where we're going to be quite spell heavy. We're going to have lots of bombs and things like that, and we're going to be playing Gord as well. And Neuromancy does give an extra point of boost to Gord. Also means we can mulligan him around 1 without worrying as much. And also Justice can just be very, very sketchy at times, as we don't have an abundance of dwarfs, whereas having a definite tutor for Justice can really, really help. And it's a super important card in this one as well. So I would say these are the most important cards. Obviously, I've let the cat out of the bag. Gord is in there as well. Heatwave is often just fantastic too, as well as the Tiger, which is just a fantastic addition to these decks. It is a control tool, but also a proactive option that applies pressure to your opponent's side of the board. And when combined with Madoc in particular, the Tiger is really, really shining in this one, because Madoc and the Tiger, lots of ways that your opponent is forced to row stack. And if you're Tiger, obviously your Madoc spawns in the right row, you can kill some stuff. And yeah, honestly, the Tiger is just a banger in this one. It's probably the deck the Tiger shines most in. We're also using as a synthesis. Again, just proactive option. Immune cards are really, really valuable in these Scoia'tael decks, for sure. We're also using Curse of Corruption and Geralt Professional. Normally, I make a judgment call between Professional or Shiru. The current meta for the last month or so is definitely tended towards Professional, because V exists. But also, with this Cataclysm that Madoc spawning, Shiru is just super, super sketchy. And because we're going heavy on bombs, we're actually not going to be including nature cards like Circle of Life and Rebuke, which means that Shiru is even more dodgy, because the Council in these decks hasn't been super popular recently either. So Shiru is just not an option in this one, to be completely honest. And Professional is another way of using these leader charges that doesn't have to compete with Shiru in this list. Let's put some more bombs into the deck. I think that seems like a good place to go next. I think you're always going to want to use double Samum in this list. Samum synergizes fantastically well with the Madoc, because there's times where Madoc's going to be on a row where there's no units, so then we can click Madoc, spawn Cataclysm in that row, and we can use a Samum to kill something and then move a card into that row to get the Cataclysm value, and then while Madoc still comes out as well. So Samum just really, really bangs very, very nicely. Also, double Northern Wind, fantastic for the mirror matchup, and I think just 2 Moon Dusts as well to replace the Rebukes. Obviously, it's a little bit sad we miss out on the Rebukes, but honestly, if you're going to bother including Madoc in your deck, you should just not include the Rebukes, and you should just be including these Moon Dusts. In my opinion. Let's not forget that Madoc is giving you more damage as well. So even though this looks like 4 targeted damage compared to the 5 of a Rebuke, this is 4 damage plus 3 extra random pings of damage. So, you know, it does definitely have its upsides. Also, like Dancing Star could be pretty reasonable in this list, as well as a Bomb Heaver for sure. But you'll probably see we don't even manage to fit a Bomb Heaver in this particular version. We could consider one of them though, potentially. But for me, I just invest my provisions elsewhere. I always love using double Pyrotechnician in these Precision Strike decks, because it's a proactive option, just like the Tiger, but far less expensive, while also applying pressure to our opponent's side of the board. Because if they play a 4-strength engine, we can just click the Pyrotechnician, and their 4-strength engine is a complete rest in peace. So Pyrotechnician, fantastic card in these decks. I would just say auto-include to include 2. You might notice that we are at our full capacity for special cards, so no more bombs, no more heat waves or Curse of Corruptions or anything like that. However, there is a card that I always love including, and my man Freddy knows all about it, and that is All God. The reason All God for me is just an auto-include, even without Sheldon, even without Shiru, is because he plays as a 10 for 10 even in round 3. And that isn't where he shines, but if you draw All God in round 3, you still just play him as a 10-point card by buffing your Sentinels, by buffing your Volunteers, or buffing whatever you're pulling off of a Neuromancy. However, of course, ideally we're going to play him in round 1 for 6 points worth of carryover onto our Sentinels, onto our Volunteers. And that is just really fantastic, especially if we manage to win round 1. If we go second, All God as a play round 1 just gives us so many points that our opponent cannot interact with, and that is just incredibly valuable in this deck. Finally, the last slot, you could be kind of flexible with it. You might be tempted to go for a skirmisher, even a squirrel or something of that nature. For me, though, I think a Dragoon is a really underrated card in Scoia'tael. And particularly with Madoc, it makes a lot of sense because we could use the Dragoon to either move Madoc or move one of our opponent's cards onto Madoc's row, and that's going to help his consistency quite a bit. So I really like the inclusion of a Dragoon in this one. And honestly, it's just a massively underrated card. Many factions would play a 4 provision movement card. It's just that Scoia'tael seems to have so many good 4 provision cards, and obviously making a bomb sort of fits the bill a little bit in that sense as well. In terms of stratagem, I would imagine it's probably just going to be a magic lamp. You might be tempted to go for a crystal skull to boost your pyrotechnicians, but I think a magic lamp just makes the most amount of sense here. Let's get into a game. I'm going to play one. It's just going to be a different, shorter video today. Basically, I've messed up my sleep schedule because I'm a bit of a weapon. I stayed up all night playing Gwent, couldn't sleep, slept at, the early hours of the morning, and now I just feel like I'm an absolute mess. So, squeezing in a quick video before I start the stream a little bit later. If you guys aren't already following the stream, twitch.tv/Gwent. I can't speak. Unfortunately, flipping Lockdown is the first matchup. It'll be interesting to see if it's our Madoc deck that I posted yesterday. The Northern Wind's going to come in clutch for sure, if that is the case. Brick City is definitely looking like an issue with this list already. We definitely don't want the Madoc, and we just kick the Volunteers and we brick the Sentinels. So we hit most of the bricks we could have found. We do have another Pyrotech index, so our Justice isn't going to be bricked. So we can just try and thin out our Volunteers to fix our hand somewhat. Also, pretty disappointing that we didn't manage to find a Northern Wind in this opening hand as well, because it is my deck from yesterday. Courier wasn't in the list that I shared, but it was a card that I was playing a little bit on. I think I was playing it on stream, but certainly it was a card I was playing a little bit scared about where this one's going. I do feel like we should be probably favoured in this matchup, just based on my games that I was playing yesterday. However, missing out on the Northern Wind round 1 is pretty devastating, honestly, because they could even Courier out our they could Courier and then Alchemist out our Madoc. So I'm a little bit intimidated that we're up against our own deck for the first game, and the hand is just not very pretty. They give us a Duchess. Do they take Madoc? They take Synthesis. That's pretty devastating, to be honest. Not ideal by any stretch of the imagination here. Let's just click the Pyrotech. Let's click the Volunteers. I think, honestly, it might be within our interests to thin our Sentinels, of course, because our leader is not actually going to work with them. So I kind of forgot that Sentinels in this Lockdown matchup are a card you do want to thin out. I actually see a Portal, so it's not my deck. Maybe I've jumped the gun a little bit. There was a deck that looked like this that was kind of a little bit popular before. So maybe it's not even the deck that I was fearing. I guess we could just go for a Moondust then. Kill the engine. And these Sentinels can still be used on the Alchemist as well. So definitely got quite lucky that I found these Sentinels in hand. And here is an issue that Madoc has: locks. The Purify cards can make a lot of sense. I think in this particular deck, it's not really a big deal. However, in the Letho version, where you invest so much into these cards, honestly, Purifies could be an idea. Of course, we do have the Moondust, but I don't think you want to be Moondusting your Madoc. Honestly, in some situations, it is actually going to be worth it, though. So I've been forced out of this round. With the Portal, quite a similar concept to what I have been playing. There is a Roach in this one as well. We didn't see Knickers. I wonder if it is, in fact, a Colgrim list. But I did see this deck. Mr. Sweet Piggy played it last season to pretty high MMR. Definitely an interesting one. Let's ditch the Duchess. Definitely not what we want. A proactive card would be pretty important for us here, and it looks like it's escaping us. And Neuromancy, thank God, saves the day, and that could be All God as well, which would be fantastic if our opponent does decide to pass. Really important there. Definitely don't want to be giving up a Saber-Tooth Tiger to just put on an empty board. That would have been disastrous. And of course, the Duchess wouldn't have been much help for us either. So this is a Synthesis, which we probably want to try and kill with Curse of Corruption, I would imagine. See what our opponent does here. This is just another example of why All God is just too good not to use, right? Like, even if we don't get the full value off him, because we might not draw all our cards. I mean, okay. It's not great, let's be honest. We've just boosted the Duchess. But of course, Sentinels and Volunteers being used round 1 is not going to be very common. It was just sort of the way it went. We could have honestly tried to not play Volunteers round 1. We just, whatever we do, don't want to draw this Duchess. So we've got the Saber-Tooth Tiger as our proactive option, and then we could go for Curse of Corruption. Is there anything we're really looking for? We can play Justice from our Neuromancy. The Dragoon wouldn't be terrible. I think, honestly, like we can probably just try and go heavy on bombs. Maybe just use a Specimen. Okay, I could have breaked Justice, but we just wouldn't have played it. So I think this is fine. We didn't really improve it much. But here the Tiger shines. Don't forget to click it. Nice proactive option. This is also where Scoia'tael would do a great job for us. Just stays uninteractive. Be interesting to see what they do. We definitely want to try and use the Curse of Corruption on Scoia'tael because we can interact with all the other cards our opponent plays. But yeah, Scoia'tael is going to take this 2-point hit from the Tiger. But we can just click Tiger first and then Curse of Corruption. And that saves the day. So the Tiger just synergizing fantastically with Curse, which is another thing that it does that's better than Scoia'tael for sure. Mr. Vigo comes in. This is just going to be the start of our bomb parade, I would imagine. The Mentor comes in. Just a high roll play. We do have a Justice in deck. Fortunately, it doesn't find the Justice. I would have been quite upset. We would definitely like to try and kill both of these with one foul swoop, if at all possible, but it's not. Let's just kill the Vigo. Of course, he's going to gain points. And unfortunately, the Mentor goes onto the opposite row, but this is probably where you're going to be able to see the value of the making a bomb. We can click Madoc now. Oh, I get Orcs. That is a little bit awkward. Flipping Orcs, man. Yeah, as mentioned, definitely not ideal that when this card gets locked, it's not what you want to see. But hi-ho. The making a bombs just work nicely with the Tiger. So some sort of Purify could be an idea. You could honestly use a Moondust on this card. Sometimes it's probably going to be worth it, unironically. But, or a Specimen just to kill it, right? Put it in the graveyard. Definitely not what you want to be doing, though, by any stretch of the imagination. Letho comes in now. I would imagine it's going to do some damage, too. No, so no Serra in hand. Let's just continue with our making of bombs. This looks like a decent heatwave target, potentially, this Letho. Obviously professional as well, without the leader ability. A little bit sus. And the making of bombs just distributing the points really, really nicely for our Tiger. And this is another thing that the Dragoon could do as well. The Ivar just coming in as a 4-deal 4. 4-deal 2, very much. Wait, this play was so bad. Oh my goodness. Oh no. I think it's kind of within our interest to play this Justice, honestly. Go for it. Like, the Dragoon's honestly not bad. I think you could definitely see the Dragoon fits quite nicely into this one. Wouldn't be terrible to use a couple of them, but I think the other card's just too good to cut. Brathan's coming in. Definitely just need to try and find some professional value. So Brathan's puts himself to 6, so I think we just take it. We've still got the Heatwave as a tool punish. Let's not click the Pyrotech because it's -2 points if we hit the shield. Also net 0 points if we hit Ivar, so it's just unnecessary risk. It of course would be +2 if we hit Letho, but we might just want to do this as our last decision to see if we think it's actually ever going to be worth it. This is where Moondust would also be nice. We could remove the shield off of this Lever's Muscle. We're 7 points to the good, but also we've got Tiger, but obviously opponent does have a card on us. The location comes in. It's not really doing too much, honestly. Just a 6-point value card. I guess they could bleed professional for... Yep. So that's them setting up another Mentor, but we've got the tool punish for it, so we're not really too bothered. I guess... Bit of an interesting decision. Basically, we want to try and maximize the maths on the Pyrotech to hit like one of these 4s. So we kind of don't want to hit this, but this also takes away our Heatwave value, right? There is a bit of a dilemma, because they could just last say this Mentor then. If we kill this and we just lose points on our Heatwave. I think it's probably within our interests to just kill this guy and not click the pyrotech. Like, if we feel like we need to go for the high roll, we can still go for it. And if they do play a mentor, we can just clean up with the heat wave now.
Focus on movements. Quiet the noise in your head.
Okay. See how this one's going to end. Another mentor. Oh, it's pretty unfortunate. So, opponent knows about the power of the mentors. I think we just need to click the pyrotech. We're 1 point to the good. Gord versus... What would beat us? That's what we need to work out. So, Gord is 13. We're 1 point to the good. Obviously, Invo wouldn't. Is there anything that would beat us? Ivar obviously doesn't. A Leo would, but are you playing Ivar and Leo? Probably not. We know it's not Seret. A Geralt Professional would do it. But I think Ivar... I think it's most likely to be Invo. So we beat Invo if we don't click. So let's not click. Because we could lose, obviously, if we hit this or this. We would lose to Invo. But we get the dub just about. Very close. That's a really interesting matchup. It's a fun deck from our opponent. Obviously, start of Pro Ladder, so everyone we're facing pretty much has either climbed to Pro Ladder in one day or was chilling at rank or finished top 500 Pro Ladder last season. So a lot of good players. I think this is the list. I think, honestly, it makes a lot of sense. I really like this Dragoon card as well in this deck for sure. I'm going to leave it at that. That's all the footage I've got. If you would like to see more of this deck, let me know. If there's any other decks you would like to see me with Madoc, let me know. I'm also going to be really try hard in this season. I'm trying to finish in the top 64 of the Pro Ladder. So I'm more than happy to be bringing you guys some more competitive decks that aren't just my homebrew decks, which obviously can spice up the meta. But if you guys would like to see just like the top tier decks that sort of the majority of people are playing, I can do that. Like I'm talking Keltalis, maybe even Masquerade Balls. I've got a Nature's Gift deck as well as like the updated Witcher deck. I'll probably be doing all that sort of stuff for sure. But definitely want to start with some more Madoc. Got some ideas with SK, maybe, but I don't think it's great, honestly. And I still want to try quite a lot more with him in Nilfgaard and just try and make that deck a bit more consistent. Now people know sort of how to play against it. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't seen the Nilfgaard video already, I promise it is a huge banger. Thanks for watching, guys, and hopefully this short style of video is still a winner. When yeah, not always got an hour's worth of footage for games, but hopefully you enjoyed it still. Deuces.